The classroom fluorescent tubes hummed with a low, dull drone, illuminating the floating dust in the air with eerie clarity. In the upper right corner of the blackboard, a red chalk message stubbornly proclaimed, 100 days until the Gaokao. I lowered my head to look at my own intact, pale, slender fingers. The fingertips bore no twist or acute pain from being crushed by a heavy object in a previous life. In my ears, the principal's rousing broadcasted vow at the assembly sounded, the screeching speaker piercing my eardrums, reminding me of an unbelievable yet utterly clear fact: I had been reborn. I had returned to the starting line of all the tragedies, before this pack of wolves pushed me into the abyss. In my previous life, I was isolated and harassed by the whole class after I blocked the campus beauty Sophia from taking the recommendation spot. On the eve of the Gaokao, she even designed to ruin my admission ticket, locking me in the abandoned equipment room, letting me miss the exam that could have changed my fate. When I cried out for help, she, with a gang of cronies, looked down on me with smug amusement, and ultimately drove me to a desperate end. Alexis, what are you daydreaming about? Congratulations on our countdown to 100 days. This is a special bestie drink I prepared just for you, with your favorite coconut jelly added. A delicate voice suddenly sounded in my ear, interrupting my memory. Sophia, wearing a well-cut customized school uniform, had a flawless, approachable smile on her face as she handed a cup of iced milk tea to my desk. Behind her stood several cronies who usually followed her everywhere, giving me condescending, spectator-like glances. In my previous life, it was this very drink, secretly laced with a high concentration of allergen in Sophia's drink. After I drank it, I had an acute allergic reaction and was hospitalized, missing 3 weeks of golden review time, causing my grades to plummet and lost the chance to compete for the recommendation. At that time I felt wronged and furious, dumped the drink on her, but earned a reputation for ingratitude and temper, morally shamed by the whole class, becoming public enemy. This time, I did not throw the cup in anger nor reveal any flaw. I slowly raised my head, and a perfectly timed mix of surprise and fear flashed in my eyes. Even my voice trembled slightly, exuding a cautious, flattering tone. Sophia, this is too precious. You're always so good to me. I don't even know how to repay you. I took the milk tea with both hands, cupping it as if it were a rare treasure. A faint trace of undisguised contempt and pride flashed in Sophia's eyes. She slightly lifted her chin and spoke in a condescending, charitable tone. We're good friends. After all, a cup of milk tea is nothing. If you can help everyone more in your studies from now on, the whole class will thank you. Of course. I raised my voice, so it echoed through half the classroom. Sophia, not only are you beautiful, you come from a good family, and you always think of every classmate. Leading us to face Gaokao under your guidance is really our class's luck. My voice drew the attention of many classmates around us. Sophia was momentarily stunned by this sudden praise spoken aloud in front of her, but her enormously inflated vanity quickly accepted the compliment. Her smile became even brighter, almost a touch of arrogant swagger. Smart move, one of Sophia's cronies muttered quietly. Right in front of Sophia, I slowly inserted a straw into the milk teacup. Sophia's breath became barely perceptible as she fixed her gaze on the straw, anticipating the moment I would swallow poison. However, just as the straw was about to touch my lips, my hand seemed to tremble violently from overly nervousness. Splash! A full cup of iced milk tea slipped from my hand and fell to the floor. The plastic lid popped off, and the liquid with allergenic ingredients splashed everywhere, even onto Sophia's expensive custom leather shoes. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Sophia! My face went pale, and I huddled down in a panic to wipe the spilled milk tea from the floor with my hands. My eye sockets reddened in an instant, and my voice was laden with immense guilt and fear. I'm too nervous. I was too excited and my hand slipped. I dirted your shoes. I'll wipe them clean right away. Sophia stepped back in disgust. Her initially feigned smile nearly couldn't stay put, but under the gawking eyes of nearby classmates, she could only forcefully hide her anger and pretend to be magnanimous as she waved it off. It's nothing. It's just a pair of shoes. Wipe them clean. You don't have to be so scared. You're really too forgiving. Sophia, if it were someone else, they would be shouting at me to death. I raised my head, tears of worship and gratitude streaming down my face, loud enough for the classmates at the front and back doors to hear clearly. You are basically the savior of our class. Whatever you say from now on, I will do. Seeing my obedient, unguarded fool of a look, the caution in Sophia's eyes completely vanished, replaced by a pride that she could control everything. The day after the oath-taking ceremony ended, the atmosphere in the class seemed calm on the surface, but undercurrents were surging. During lunch break, the fluorescent lights in the classroom emitted a pale, eerie glow. Sophia, in high heels, walked lightly to my desk. She casually flung a hardcover notebook onto my desk with a dull, muffled thud. Alexis. Sophia looked down at me from a superior height, her manicured fingers tapping lightly on the desk. In the last last week's mock exam, your Chinese essay was the top in the whole school. The joint exam next week is very important to me. My dad has already helped me contact prestigious universities for autonomous admission, but I've been too busy recently and have no time to tidy a high-scoring essay framework. This notebook, you'll fill it up for me. Her tone was matter-of-fact, not a request at all, but a command. In the last life, she did the same, forcefully pressing me to draft high-scoring essays and model answers for various competitions, only to publish them under her own name and snatch away the honors that should have belonged to me. If I resisted even a little, her flunkies would place dead mice in my desk drawers or smear disgusting ink all over my uniform. This time, I did not endure or retreat as before. I put down the pen immediately, cupped the notebook with both hands, tilted my head back, and a sincere and admiring light flashed in my eyes. Sophia, it's my honor to help you organize your notes. Your literary talent already shines. It's just that you're usually dealing with a lot of class affairs, which divides your attention. Don't worry, I will put forth my best effort to help you write. Sophia was very pleased with my attitude. She gave me a barely perceptible cold smile and patted my shoulder. Smart move. Do a good job. And don't disappoint me. Watching Sophia's graceful back as she turned away, I slowly closed the notebook, a cold arc tugging at the corners of my mouth. To destroy a person, the fastest way is to continuously inflate her ambitions while secretly siphoning away her abilities. In the next 3 days, I burned the midnight oil. Not only did I not dawdle on this task, I poured enormous effort into it. I combed through all the highest-scoring model essays from recent years, carefully selecting the most magnificent, most profound, and most eloquent words and sentence structures to sculpt each paragraph like a work of art. However, beneath this perfect exterior, I planted a deadly poison. Using my deep understanding of the exam grading rules, I made an extremely covert diversion in the logical structure. On the surface, the article seemed to be full of flair and lofty ideals, but in the core arguments, I deliberately introduced a few vaguely defined fictitious references and left gaps in the reasoning that appeared profound but were actually completely off-topic. To outsiders, this would be an impeccable masterpiece. But to truly rigorous high school exam graders, once such a piece was written, it would be directly penalized to the lowest scoring tier for topic deviation and logical chaos. On the morning of the 4th day, I handed Sophia the organized notebook with both hands. Sophia, I've organized templates for nearly all the grand topics that could appear in the past 5 years, and I've used the topmost linguistic structures. I lowered my voice, a sense of taking credit evident in it. If you just memorize these templates, your for the joint exam next week will almost reach a perfect score. Sophia opened the notebook, her eyes lighting up at the meticulously tidy and brilliant handwriting. Although her grades were only average, she still had basic appreciation ability, and those splendid phrases immediately fed her vanity. Not bad, Alexis. You do have a certain talent. Sophia proudly closed her notebook, as if all this was what she deserved. It's all because you have a solid foundation, Sophia. I'm just following your train of thought to organize things. I immediately raised my volume, just loud enough for a few rich kids around who were troubled by their studies to hear. Moreover, Sophia, you manage the class so hard on a daily basis, yet you can handle such deep learning content. If our class doesn't have your leadership, no one would know what to do. Upon hearing me, a few lackeys and rich kids in the back rows gathered around. Wow, Sophia, you've even prepared a template for the joint exam essay? Amazing. Yeah. Sophia, your family is rich and you're smart, you're basically the goddess of our class. Hearing one compliment after another, Sophia's vanity swelled to the extreme. She slightly lifted her chin and waved gracefully. We're all classmates. Helping each other is what we should do. Once I grab first place, you'll all benefit. I stood to the side, lowering my head to conceal a flash of coldness in my eyes. The higher the pedestal, the harder the fall. Sophia, this is only the first customized poison apple for you. I hope you eat it happily. In the following days, I began to push and facilitate in the class without restraint. Whenever a student encountered a difficult problem, I wouldn't answer directly, but would deliberately guide them to ask Sophia. This problem's idea is quite complex. Sophia discussed something similar with me last time. Her understanding is far deeper than mine. Go ask her quickly. Whenever the class discussed a group activity, I was always the first to propose. This big matter must be decided by Sophia. Only her vision and breadth can lead our class to the best. Under my deliberate flattery and covert diversion, those followers and the lazy rich kids in the class developed an extreme reliance on Sophia and blind worship. Sophia herself completely sank into this delusion of being the savior who controlled everything, even starting to frequently miss the early morning self-study, dedicating all her energy to enjoying the admiration of others. She didn't notice at all that the perfect model essay she prides herself on was about to drag her into an inescapable abyss, and the myth of her all-around excellence that she so strenuously maintained was nothing more than a self-made emperor's new clothes. As the numbers on the countdown board gradually dwindled day by day, the pressure of the second half of the senior year pressed down on everyone like a heavy hammer. The classroom atmosphere grew eerie and restless. Especially the group of rich kids in the back rows, who normally squandered their days on family resources, were panicking as the college entrance examination approached. The most anxious of all was Sophia's most loyal henchman, Matteo. Matteo's father is a member of the school board and has already issued him a final warning. If this month's mock exam doesn't meet the undergraduate cutoff, funding will be withdrawn immediately, and he'll be sent to a remote, closed boarding school. Damn it! How on earth do you solve this derivative problem? Who could possibly handle such a monstrous question? During lunch break, Matteo, furious, smashed the dust-free chalk from in his hand and began denouncing from the back row. His voice was loud, and the classroom atmosphere froze in an instant. Sophia sat near the podium, looking rather grim. As the consensus leader everyone followed, if she couldn't even shelter her own small group, the hard-earned prestige of the past few days would instantly collapse. I sat in a corner, watching coldly, knowing the predetermined pieces had arrived at the moment to be dropped. I pretended to go to the podium to fetch water. Passing by Matteo's desk, I deliberately stumbled, scattering a stack of test papers and materials all over the floor. Among them, a stiff sheet of printing on craft paper slid precisely to Matteo's feet. Are you blind? Alexis. Matteo, unable to vent his anger elsewhere, raised his foot to trample the materials. Sorry. I'll pick them up immediately. My face changed dramatically, eyes flashing with extreme panic and fluster, almost kneeling on the ground, rushing to grab that craft paper, even to crumple the paper in an attempt to cover the words on it. My overreaction immediately aroused Matteo's suspicion. He suddenly reached out and pushed me to the floor, grabbing that craft paper. Calm down. What are you hiding? Could there be some forbidden cheat sheets? Matteo wrathfully opened the page. Only a glance, and his eyes fixed himself. It was a document titled Internal Closed-Door Forecast and Problem-Solving Model for Core Experts of the Provincial Exam Group, Top Secret, densely filled with complex analytic geometry and derivative cracking formulas. And even the latter part of the problem types aligned closely with the structure of the province's past year's final exam questions. At the bottom, there was a blurred red stamp. What is this? Matteo's voice trembled, his breath becoming incredibly rapid. I panicked, crawled up from the ground, lowered my voice, and pleaded with a sobbing tone. Matteo, please give it back to me. This is the top secret material I paid a lot for. I got it through my cousin's connections in the Provincial Department of Education. There's only this one copy of the predictive model. If the school finds out, I'll be expelled. My performance was flawless, perfectly portraying a timid, Cowardly good student who privately nabbed top-secret exam prep material and fears exposure. Mateo, upon hearing this, a greedy gleam instantly flashed in his eyes. He didn't even pretend to consider it. Instead, he stood up abruptly, took the paper, and walked straight toward Sophia. Sophia! Look at this! Mateo handed the document to Sophia with both hands, his voice full of uncontrollable delight. Alexis, this foul girl secretly got the internal forecast from the exam group. Sophia's originally cold face instantly changed upon seeing the words inside secrets of the exam group. She grabbed the document and read it carefully. This document, of course, was something I had meticulously prepared. In my previous life, in order to achieve good results, I dismantled nearly 10 years of real exam questions and mock questions from prestigious local schools to the extreme. Using this advanced memory, I mixed the logic of the new syllabus several years later with the current old syllabus, crafting a set of so-called confidential materials that looked like tightly reasoned logic but in fact completely deviated from this year's exam direction. It contained a large number of fast tricks for solving problems. These tricks were lightning fast for certain questions, but once they encountered the truly innovative thinking questions this year's Gaokao emphasized, they would fall into a dead end of logic, leading to total defeat. Sophia read more and more with growing alarm and excitement. Although she couldn't understand the deeper mathematical logic, the detailed steps and seemingly profound deduction formulas on the materials completely conquered her. Alexis. Sophia closed the materials and, towering over me, walked up to me with a gaze full of scrutiny and threat. Where did you get this material? I lowered my head, my hands gripping the hem of my clothes tightly, trembling and whispering, it was my cousin. Sophia. Please don't tell anyone. I just want to study quietly by myself. Quiet study? Sophia sneered, lowering her voice and threatening in a tone only the two of us could hear. Alexis, don't forget who holds your admission recommendation letter. Do you want to monopolize such a treasure? No, I won't dare. My eyes reddened, shaking my head in despair. Sophia wore a satisfied smile. To her, I was a tool completely in her palm, weak and useless. She suddenly turned around, facing the group of followers and wealthy classmates who were panicking in the classroom, and raised her voice as if saving the world, declaring, "Everyone, don't panic. I have obtained, through special family connections, the confidential draft questions for this year's provincial exam from the exam setting group for our class's little friends." Sophia lifted that set of materials high, her eyes full of arrogance and pride. If everyone sticks tightly to me and follows my pace to study this internal material, I guarantee that all of us will easily pass. The back of the class burst into cheers and applause at once. Long live Sophia! I knew there would be something to gain by following Sophia. Awesome. Sophia is basically our savior. Some people still want to monopolize it, but look at their status. Sophia is magnanimous. Mateo and the others surrounded Sophia, crowning her like a goddess. Sophia held her head high, fully enjoying the worship and gratitude from the whole class, completely sinking into the pleasure of being a savior. 3 days left until the monthly exam, and the atmosphere in the class was eerily tense. Sophia, relying on that top-secret cheat sheet, had cemented her absolute authority. During every break, her followers crowded around her desk, begging for photocopies. They recited the problem-solving formulas that muddled concepts as if they had found priceless treasure, their faces flushed with red light as if one foot had already stepped into a prestigious university. Yet as the exam drew nearer, the unease in Sophia's heart quietly grew. She watched me tirelessly drill questions at my seat, and a faint sense of insecurity gnawed at her. In her eyes, this original owner who could obtain the materials might still hold the most core secrets in hand. To ensure she could crush me and utterly trample my dignity in this month's test, she decided to strike. Friday afternoon, the whole class had a physical fitness test in gym class, and the classroom was empty. I stood in the shade of a tree on the playground, coldly watching Sophia signal Mateo with a glance. Soon after, Mateo claimed a stomachache and left the group, slipping back toward the teaching building. What they didn't know was that half an hour earlier I had already fixed an old phone with recording function activated and excellent hidden placement, beside the wall near the edge of my desk's notice board. 20 minutes later, the fitness test ended. I followed the crowd back to the classroom. Just as I reached my seat, I let out a panic-stricken scream that drew everyone's attention. Where is my admission ticket? And my math induction notes, why can't I find them? I frantically rummaged through desk drawers, tossing books about, and my eyes burned with tears from stress. Mateo sat in the back with his arms crossed, sneering coldly. Alexis, if you've lost it, you've lost it. What's the point of shouting? If you're careless, whose fault is that? Without the admission ticket, how do you enter the exam next week? A few followers nearby started laughing, full of schadenfreude. Sophia walked over, holding a water bottle, adopting a savior-like pose, and pretended to comfort. Alexis, don't panic yet. Losing your admission ticket is a big problem. Why not ask the director for help? But at this moment the director hates careless students, and maybe they'll cancel your exam eligibility entirely. Seeing that smug look in Sophia's eyes, I sneered inside. In the previous life, she used such vile means to ruin my admission ticket, causing me to miss the most critical mock exam and be reprimanded by the school. But this time, you all walked into the dead end I personally set up. I took a deep breath, wiped away the non-existent tears at the corner of my eyes, and spoke with a tremor in my voice but unusually firm. Sophia, there's no need to ask the director, because I know who took it. With that, the classroom fell silent. Mateo's eyes flashed with a hint of panic, but he quickly hardened. Don't spread rumors. Who took your broken thing? I didn't say it was you, Mateo. What are you getting so excited about? I looked up and met his gaze. The corner of my mouth even curled into a strange smile. I walked calmly to the wall beside the notice board, and in front of the whole class, reached into the gap of the magazine rack and pulled out the high-definition phone that had been recording the whole time. Mateo and Sophia's faces went white in an instant. What is this? Alexis, did you secretly record? Mateo panicked, flailing as he tried to rush over to grab the phone. I deftly dodged to the side of the podium and connected the phone to the classroom's projector. Pressing play! On the big screen appeared a few minutes earlier. Mateo sneaking into the classroom, adeptly opening my backpack, tearing my admission ticket into shreds and tossing it into the trash, then quickly packing my notebook into his own drawer. The evidence was overwhelming, and the whole class gasped in unison. Mateo. How could he do such a thing? Stealing someone's exam admission ticket and notes, this is just too despicable. The surrounding students' whispers hammered at Mateo like knives. Mateo trembled all over, cold sweat pouring down, instinctively turning to Sophia for help. Sophia! You made me, shut up! Sophia screamed, cutting him off, her face a grim mask. She knew that if Mateo confessed that she had orchestrated it, her carefully cultivated perfect school beauty image would collapse completely. Sophia was decisive. She swung a loud slap across Mateo's face and loudly accused him, with righteous anger. Mateo! How could you do this illegal thing? How did I teach you? Our class absolutely will not tolerate a scumbag like you. Mateo was dazed by the slap, covering his cheek and not daring to speak. After laying the blame, Sophia turned to me, forcing a smile uglier than crying, trying to defuse the situation. Alexis, you see Mateo is just a momentary lapse. Could you not hand the surveillance video to the school? If it goes to the administration, Mateo will be expelled, and our class's collective honor will be ruined. She once again tried to use collective honor to morally bind me. I looked at Sophia, and a just right amount of tension and magnanimity appeared in my eyes. I sighed and said, Sophia, for your sake, I won't hand the video over to the school. But Mateo has sabotaged my study plan. Everyone is working toward a common goal, and he's undermining it from within. It's demoralizing. Seeing a turn of events, Sophia eagerly followed my lead and asked, Then what do you want? As long as Mateo is saved, I'll agree to anything you say. A hint of sly coldness flashed in my eyes as I pressed on. Since everyone is under so much study pressure lately, and Mateo has made a mistake. Sophia, as the eldest sister figure to everyone, shouldn't you promise something to make up for the damage to the class atmosphere and help everyone finally relieve some pressure? Sophia, eager to make a difference and shed responsibility, blurted out without thinking. No problem. as long as everyone in the monthly exam scores highly under my arrangement. On the eve of the Gaokao, I'll charter a bus and take the whole class to the neighboring city to attend the farewell tour of the superstar boy band. I'll cover all tickets, meals, and lodging." With those words, the once dull classroom erupted in earth-shaking cheers. Oh my God! The superstar band's farewell concert. Intersection tickets cost tens of thousands. Sophia is amazing. Long live Sophia. Mateo, what is this? Sophia is the real goddess. Amid the class's fanatic cheers, Sophia regained her sense of control and even shot me a taunting glance. In her eyes, she had used money to win back her reputation and had trampled me beneath her feet. She had no idea that, right before the entire class, she had just dug the last pit of dirt for herself, and for all of them, the path to hell. On the day the midterm results were announced, the corridor was crowded with people around the scoreboard. As expected, with the top-secret materials I provided, Sophia and her small group scored quite well on a few specific question types. Although the overall ranking was heavily downgraded due to the off-topic focus, in the eyes of the followers who didn't know the inside story, this already served as the perfect validation of that predicted masterpiece. Did you see that? I told you Sophia's materials are absolutely top-notch. Mateo boomed in front of the crowd, fully stepping out of the previous gloom. As long as we stick with Sophia, we'll surely score highly on the entrance exam. Sophia stood in the center of the crowd, wearing a branded jacket, the refined corner of her mouth lifting into a smile. She turned her head and glared at me, who had just come out from reading the list. My scores remained at the top of the grade, and I performed perfectly in every subject. Sophia's gaze darkened briefly, then returned to its previous arrogance. In her view, I was nothing more than a bookish hardhead who only knew how to study, while she was the elite who could use resources to control the situation. Some people can score high. So what? They'll always be a bunch of bookworms, Sophia said, pinching a few tickets that flashed laser bright at her fingertips, her voice crisp as it spread through the corridor. Students, the time has come to keep our promises. Next week, on the eve of the entrance exam, the superstar group Aurora will hold its farewell tour concert. Front row seats with backstage access, I've got them all. The corridor erupted in wild screams and cheers. Oh my God! Aurora tickets on the black market are going for tens of thousands each. And backstage too. Sophia, you're a god. The whole class is more than 30 people. How much money must this take? Probably the entire province has Sophia's talent and means. Facing the students' feverish worship, Sophia's inflated vanity found unprecedented satisfaction. She held up the tickets high and proclaimed, "The most important thing before the exam is to relax the mind. That night we'll hire a bus to the neighboring port city, watch the concert, party all night, and the next day we'll ride a luxury bus back to the test center, and go all out to ace the exam." This almost crazy plan strangely drew no one to question it within the rousing class. Under Sophia's long-standing blow-up and blind worship, this group of wealthy youths and their followers had long since lost the most basic rational judgment. I stood quietly on the periphery of the crowd, hands folded in front of me, a look of just right anxiety and worry on my face. I took a deep breath, stepped forward, and spoke in a very sincere and uneasy tone. "Sophia, this is too dangerous. Going to the neighboring city to watch a concert on the eve of the exam? Staying up all night will completely disrupt everyone's biological clock. And the journey between the two cities is so far. What if something goes wrong along the way? This concerns the fate of everyone's future on the entrance exam." Seeing me step forward to stop it, Sophia's face instantly fell. "Alexis, stop worrying about everything and spreading rumors here." Mateo jumped out first, pointing at my nose and cursing. "If you want to be a bookworm and clutch your books, fine. But don't drag us down by missing the point. Sophia has arranged everything properly. Is there any need for you to play the martyr here? Yeah. Talk about it if you're jealous of Sophia's money and resources. If you're going to act like a good-hearted person every day, it's just nauseating." The followers' curses rained down. I shed a few tears of grievance in my eyes, my voice shaking but stubbornly persisting. "I'm not jealous. I'm really thinking of everyone's best. Staying up late the night before the exam harms brainpower too much. And there could be any number of incidents on the highway. What if we're delayed and can't get into the exam room? This is the exam that determines all of our lives. Sophia, listen to me this once and cancel this plan. After the exams, everyone can do whatever they want. The more I argued passionately and tried to block it, the stronger Sophia's defiance and arrogance became. Enough! Alexis! Sophia snapped with a cold, scornful smile, looking at me as if I were naive. Do you think everyone is as sheltered as you? I've arranged the highest specification 5-star bus from my company and a private security team, with VIP green channels all the way. The low probability accidents you mentioned do not exist in my dictionary. She slammed a ticket onto the podium and delivered the final ultimatum from a commanding height. Since you're so afraid, you stay alone in this dilapidated classroom and study to death. The whole class of 35 is leaving with me except for you. Don't look at us scoring high and getting jealous and going mad later. Sophia is right. We won't take her with us. Leave this coward alone. Under Sophia's instigation, the entire class fully turned against me. Seeing everyone incensed and isolating me, Sophia's lips curved into a victorious smile. She never expected that all my previous urgent pleas and sob streaks were part of a carefully staged show for her. In psychology terms, this is reverse psychology and the trap of overconfidence. If I hadn't tried so hard to block it, Sophia might have harbored a sliver of doubt about this crazy plan. It was precisely my display of extreme worry and moral admonition that instead ignited her competitive spirit, driving her to push forward this doomed plan with all her might to prove she could do anything in front of me. Watching the class's fanatic cheers, I silently turned away, burying my head in the book. On the eve of the Gaokao, at 6 o'clock in the evening, the sky was dyed by the setting sun into a bizarre crimson. At the school gate, 2 extremely luxury double-decker coaches were parked, their bodies plastered with a giant poster for the superstar group Aurora farewell concert. Sophia wore a custom-fitted formal gown, standing beside the car door like a proud queen. More than 30 classmates in casual clothes surrounded her excitedly, holding beer boxes and glow sticks, their faces filled with the frenzy and excitement of about to break the rules. Alexis, you really aren't getting on the bus? Sophia looked down from above through the school gate bars at me, dressed neatly in school uniform, her tone dripping with ridicule. Tonight is the Aurora Group's last ever gathering in this lifetime. Don't you think your youth is sad? Guarding an empty classroom? Mateo stuck his head out from the bus window, holding a half bottle of foreign liquor, and mockingly jeered. Sophia, stop wasting your time on this stubborn waste. Let her stay here to cram, and we'll see her trampled underfoot in tomorrow's exam. Inside the carriage, a chorus of screeching laughter and clinking cups erupted. I stood at the cold school gate, arms wrapped tightly around my review materials, head bowed, my voice as faint as a mosquito. Sophia, tonight will really rain, and the traffic conditions in the neighboring city are complicated. You could still come back now. Shut your opiate mouth. Sophia snorted disdainfully, turned, and stepped onto the bus in high heels, waving wildly. Let's go! Tonight we party until dawn. The engines roared. 2 buses carried the class's frenzy and mockery, roaring along the coastal highway that connected to the neighboring city. Watching the bus taillights disappear into the night, the fear and worry on my face instantly dissipated. I lifted my head, my expression cold and grim. I checked my watch. 7 o'clock in the evening. Everything was advancing precisely according to my plan. I turned and walked back into the empty classroom, closing the windows tightly. Half an hour later, a violent gust rose and heavy rain fell as scheduled, pounding against the window glass. In my past life, that very night, this sudden downpour caused a regional traffic paralysis, and the only hub from the neighboring city to this city, the Cross-Sea Bridge, fell into a state of paralysis for a time. And this time, to ensure this accident went off without a hitch, 3 hours earlier I had submitted a report to the Provincial Transportation Supervision Department and the Safety Inspection Team via anonymous email. The letter detailed evidence that several large logistics companies in the neighboring city used the cover of nighttime heavy rain to illegally transport oversized and overweight hazardous materials across the bridge, evidence I had pre-collected from memories of my previous life. At this moment, at the entrance of the Cross-Sea Bridge, combined law enforcement had already set up extremely strict temporary checkpoints, and all large vehicles and coaches had to be inspected one by one. Coupled with rain-induced landslides, the Cross-Sea Bridge had already become a steel wall that prevented progress. Meanwhile, inside the neighboring city's stadium, a deafening audio-visual feast was underway. Sophia had booked the innermost golden area closest to the stage. The bass pounded so hard it made hearts race, the lights on stage dazzled, and Sophia and the entire class had already gone wild in the audience. Mateo and others drank large amounts of high-alcohol liquor, shouting hysterically with the music and dancing, throwing all pressure from the Gaucho and rationality into the clouds. Sophia stood at the front of the stage, one hand holding a champagne glass, the other raising her phone to film a panoramic video, feverishly posting in her moments and the class group. Some people deserve to rot in the corners, while we have already stood at the top of the world. Tonight we drink until we don't go home. The students in the video all have flushed faces and unfocused eyes, and the entire stadium seems like a giant trap of frenzy. I sit under a quiet desk lamp, wearing soundproof earplugs, calmly turning the last page of the core college entrance exam point summary. Outside, the rain pelts down and thunder roars. I look at the crazy videos Sophia sent on my phone screen, and slowly curl my lips into a smile, whispering to myself, "Cheer to your heart's content, Sophia. This is the last brilliance of your lives, and the grandest funeral I am giving you." At 3 in the middle of the night, the concert ends. After the alcohol and extreme excitement, a heavy fatigue washes over like a tsunami. More than 30 students in the class slump like pools of mud on the bus seats, slipping into deep hangovers and sleep. The driver starts the bus, slowly heading toward the highway back home. At 6:30 in the morning, dawn was barely breaking. The sky was gray and oppressive, and fine rain still hammered against the windows without end. The coastal expressway toll booth between the neighboring city and the capital city was already gridlocked. Red and yellow car lights intertwined into a dead, dragon-like serpent with no end in sight, the engine roars and the vexed honks forming a chorus. Inside the luxurious bus, a stench of vomit, cheap perfume, and strong liquor wafted, sharp and nauseating. Sophia was jolted awake by a screeching brake. Her head pounded violently, the backlash of a hangover. She rubbed her swollen temples. Her delicate makeup was long since smeared, false eyelashes had fallen off in half, and she looked utterly wrecked and exhausted. She looked at her watch. It was 6:40. There were 2 full hours and 20 minutes before the first Chinese language exam of the Gaokao. Logic would say that from the neighboring city, taking the highway back to the capital's exam venue should take just over 40 minutes. But when Sophia drew back the curtain and looked outside, she felt as if she had fallen into an ice cave. The bus was stuck in the middle of the expressway, the traffic ahead dense beyond sight, not a single movement. "Driver! What's going on? Why aren't we moving?" Sophia hurried to the cockpit, shouting in a sharp voice. The middle-aged driver turned his head with a look of helplessness and pointed to the paralyzed traffic ahead. "Miss Sophia, up ahead the cross-sea bridge had a major accident. I've heard it was a overloaded hazardous materials truck that overturned. Plus last night's heavy rain caused landslides. The authorities are closing the road for inspection. We've been stuck here for more than 2 hours and haven't moved a few meters." "What?" Sophia's scream tore through the silence of the bus. The classmates who had been dozing haphazardly in their seats were jolted awake by the scream. Mateo rubbed his bleary eyes, staggered over, and nonchalantly said, "Sophia, what's going on? It's just a traffic jam, right? Let the driver use the emergency lane. Isn't that possible? Isn't your family well connected? Give them a call and smooth it over. Are you out of your mind from the alcohol?" Sophia cried, red with anger. "This is a road closure. The entire road is blocked. Where's any emergency lane?" The word closure sent chills through more than 30 classmates in the bus. The numbing effect of alcohol was swept away by a surge of fear. "Closed? Then how are we supposed to get to the exam venue? It's Gaokao Day. Oh my God! It's already 7. It'll take another hour to get back to the school from here." "Sophia, didn't you promise there wouldn't be any accidents? Didn't you say there's private security and a green channel?" Anxiety and panic spread through the bus like a contagious disease. Those who usually flattered Sophia now looked pale, their voices quivering with sobs as they begged Sophia for explanations. Cornered, Sophia stepped back and tried to steady herself. "Everyone, don't panic. I'll call my dad right away. My dad is the chairman of the group. He has a private helicopter and he'll surely send someone to pick us up. With trembling hands, she retrieved a high-end phone and dialed her father's number. But the call took a long time to connect, and the one who answered was not the imposing father she was used to, but a cold, stern law enforcement official. Hello, are you the family of Antonio? Antonio is suspected of enormous tax evasion, commercial fraud, and illegal operations. He has been subjected to criminal coercive measures since this morning, and all assets under his name have been legally frozen and sealed. Please cooperate with the investigation. Click. The phone slid from Sophia's powerless hand and smashed heavily onto the bus floor. The screen shattered. Sophia seemed to have her soul sucked out, slumping onto the ground. Sophia? Are you talking? What did your dad say? When is the helicopter coming? Matteo grabbed her shoulders and shook her violently, her pupils red as if they were about to bleed. There's no helicopter anymore, all of it's gone, my family's place has been sealed off. Sophia mumbled in a daze, her gaze hollow to a terrifying degree. This mortal blow completely shattered the last shred of hope inside the carriage. What? Your family's sealed off? Then your promises to us before were all fake? You old witch. You dragged us here to watch some crappy concert. You've ruined us. My college entrance exam. You've ruined my whole life. I'm going to fight you to the death. The angered rage erupted in the cramped bus cabin in an instant. The classmates who once idolized Sophia and treated her as a savior now looked like beasts picking their victims. Several girls cried loudly, and several emotionally unstable boys rushed forward to violently tear at Sophia's hair and clothes, shoving, beating, and scolding filling the air. Matteo raged like crazy, kicking the seat, pointing at Sophia, and cursing. Bitch! You gave us fake information. You brought us here to party. You've ruined us all. The cabin plunged into a hellish scene of blood and screams. The once aloof campus beauty clique had its dignity and friendship crushed completely before the wave of life-destroying disaster. Time passed minute by minute. 8:30. 9 o'clock sharp. The bell for the start of the Chinese language exam in the Gaokao rang at all major exam halls across the province. And on the narrow, congested highway, 2 luxury buses were still tightly stuck in the middle of the traffic, unable to move forward. Inside the cabin, only despairing cries and hysterical sobs remained. More than 30 students in the class, due to this night before the Gaokao's peak celebration, all missed the most crucial first exam of the Gaokao, utterly depriving them of the qualification to enter university. The bell signaling the end of the first Chinese exam rang through the campus. I calmly closed my pen case and walked out of the exam hall with the bustling army of Gaokao students. Outside the school gate, the area was already packed with dense crowds of parents and media reporters, parasols and long guns and cannons interwoven, and the air was thick with tension and anticipation. However, the most conspicuous spot at the gate carried a strangely frozen atmosphere. 2 dusty, mud-splattered luxury coaches lurched to the side of the road. The doors opened, and more than 30 students who had missed the first exam trudged down. Their hair was a mess, their eye sockets reddened, and the high-fashion outfits they wore were wrinkled beyond recognition, emanating a strong stench of alcohol and vomit. The once-class elites stood there like street-crossing rats, trembling as they faced the oncoming wave of parents. My son, where on earth have you gone? How could you miss the exam? As a rebellious child, I spent hundreds of thousands to educate you, and you went to a concert in the neighboring city the night before the Gaokao? You've ruined our whole family. The shrieks, claps, and savage curses exploded at the school gate. Dozens of parents who had learned the truth completely lost control, rushing forward to punch and kick their own children, and the scene went into chaos. And in the center of the crowd, Sophia was tightly surrounded by several furious parents. Her designer coat had been ripped by the earlier commotion, her face bore a few scratches, and the once glamorous campus belle looked as down and out as a street beggar. All because of her. It's this bitch who did it to us. Matteo pointed at Sophia, screaming hysterically and trying to shift all the blame onto others. She has those fake exam prediction materials. She forced the entire class to go to the neighboring city to see the concert. If we didn't go, she would threaten with admission through excellence quotas. Sophia's mouth bled from the beating, her eyes swelling with rage. She looked at the parents closing in to tear her apart, and extreme panic made her glimpse me stepping out. No, not me. It's Alexis. Sophia cried out as if grabbing the last straw. Pointing at me, Alexis advocated everyone to relax. She suggested I charter a bus. She gave the fake materials. She's the mastermind. She's jealous of us, deliberately sabotaging the whole class. Suddenly dozens of bloodshot eyes shot toward me. A few emotionally shattered parents roared and charged at me. Pay for my child's future, you cruel-hearted little bitch. Facing this predatory onslaught, I did not retreat a single step, not even a flicker in my gaze. I calmly reached into my backpack, pulled out a Bluetooth speaker and a thick stack of printed documents, then pressed play directly. Everyone, don't panic. I've secured the confidential Hot Topic model from the provincial question setting group for our class through special family connections. Sophia's incredibly proud, haughty voice rang through the speaker tenfold, clearly echoing across the entire gate. The audio not only included recordings of Sophia coercing the class to memorize materials, but also screenshots from the class group the night before, one after another urging restraint. Alexis, Sophia, please cancel the concert plans. Staying up all night before the Gauco is too dangerous, and highways could have accidents at any moment. Alexis, Mateo, everyone, please don't go. The Gauco affects a lifetime. Staying at school to revise is the right path. Sophia, reply. Stop spreading nonsense. Whoever doesn't follow me is against me. The whole class except you is coming with me. Mateo, reply. Get lost. You bookworm. Once we get into a prestigious school, we'll tramp you under our feet. The clear, printed chat records and audio evidence hit Sophia and Mateo like a heavy slap in the face, and solidified the parents' furious accusations against me in place. The scene fell into deadly silence. Even the reporters who rushed over were frantically snapping photos of Sophia and the chat records with their flashes. Did you all see that? I lifted my head, eyes red, my tone tinged with just the right amount of grievance and heartbreak. I begged them to stop for 3 whole days. I even pleaded with Sophia not to use everyone's future as a joke. Yet not only did they not listen, they ostracized me and bullied me in class, calling me a coward. Sophia used hollowly inflated vanity to parade untrustworthy information as a front, dragging the whole class to the brink. Every word of mine felt like bloodied hail, smashing Sophia's last disguise to pieces. The truth stood before us. I am not the mastermind behind the scenes, but the only one who stayed clear-headed and even painfully tried to stop them from committing suicide by risk. You worthless slut. You bring about your own death and dare to use us as guns? I'll kill you. You harm-bringer. The moment the truth came to light, the parents' fury engulfed Sophia and Mateo again with 10 times the intensity. Dozens of parents rushed forward, wildly beating and cursing Sophia, tearing at her hair, forcing her face into the muddy ground. Sophia struggled in the mud, screaming in despair. The dignity, honor, and pride she once had were completely crushed into the dirt at this moment. I stood on the dry steps, looking down with a superior attitude at Sophia, who was being trampled like a dog in the mud. On the 3rd day after the Gauco ended, the storm of public opinion swept through the city with unstoppable momentum. The news that the class beauty threw a private car party for the entire class before the exam and caused collective absences exploded onto the top of hot search lists. The accompanying photo was from that day at the school gate. Sophia, covered in mud and water, battered by furious parents, and the screenshots of my earnest admonitions that I showed. The online condemnation was overwhelming, almost burying Sophia. For vanity to ruin the whole class's Gauco. This person is too vicious. Deserved. This is what happens if you don't invite death. Pity the girl Alexis who kept warning them. Luckily she didn't join these crazies in self-destruction. However, this was only the tip of the iceberg in this chain of avalanches. The true destruction came from the multidimensional strike I had prepared long ago. In the previous life, Sophia's family business, the Stephen Group, grew by evading taxes, falsifying accounts, and seizing assets from small enterprises, with a sea of dark secrets behind it. In these months of my rebirth, I used my spare time to package and organize the hidden ledgers detailing how her family hid tax evasion and illegally transferred assets, and anonymously sent them to the Provincial Tax Bureau, the Industrial and Commercial Regulatory Authorities, and top investigative journalists. Right after Gauco ended, a joint investigative team fast-tracked their entry. All of Stephen Group's accounts were legally frozen, and its assets were seized across the board. Sophia's father, Antonio, once arrogant, was formally arrested on charges of massive economic crimes, facing decades in prison. Sophia's pride, her luxury mansion, designer bags, and expensive cars, were sealed with cold court orders in a single day. Not only that, but Matteo and a slew of followers also could not escape misfortune. I had anonymously uploaded to judicial authorities and mainstream media all the surveillance videos and recordings from last life and this term showing Matteo tearing up classmates' textbooks, extorting money, and bullying the weak on campus. Under immense public pressure, the local police quickly intervened. Matteo was taken into criminal custody on charges including multiple counts of provocation and intentional injury. Matteo's parents, who had once hoped to rely on their family background to ride out the storm, collapsed under bankruptcy and police pressure, and could only watch as their son was led away in cold handcuffs. In just 1 week, the once dazzling Queen Bee Circle on campus was completely obliterated. That afternoon, outside the city center's bankruptcy liquidation auction house, I wore a clean, simple white dress and stood quietly by the shady path. The sky drizzle fell as Sophia dragged a shabby suitcase and walked out of the auction site, desolate. She wore cheap, old clothes, her hair was dry and tangled, her face pale as paper, and she was so thin she looked skeletal. The once soaring heiress could no longer afford a decent meal. Seeing me standing by the roadside, Sophia's body trembled violently. A wave of hatred and despair erupted in her eyes as she lunged toward me like a madwoman, her voice hoarse as a struck bell. "Alexis, it's you, isn't it? It's my dad's company, and Matteo's matters, all by you, right?" I did not dodge. I simply watched as she walked up to me, my gaze calm as a stagnant pool. "Sophia," I leaned in slightly, speaking in a voice only the two of us could hear, cold and precise with every word. "When you pushed me off the stairs in the last life and ruined my life, you should have known there would be today." What are you talking about? What last life?" Sophia rolled her eyes, pupils wildly constricting, gazing at me in utter fear. "What do you mean? Do evil and it will bring about your own destruction?" A cruel yet elegant smile tugged at the corner of my mouth. "Do you think you're the one who took the class to the concert? No. I pushed you step by step onto the high platform, and then watched you fall into hell yourself. Ah, you devil. I'm taking you on." Sophia went completely mad, screaming and swiping at my face with her claws. I narrowed my eyes, stepped aside, and tripped her with my foot. Bang! Sophia crashed to the ground, lying face down in the cold, muddy puddle, splashing dirty water all over her. Passers-by around them pulled out their phones to watch and film, pointing at her with eyes full of disgust and contempt. I looked down from above at Sophia struggling and panting in the mud, said no more useless words, then turned around, stepping onto the clean ground and leaving gracefully. The night before the release of the college entrance exam results, at 11 p.m., the city was enveloped in dead silence. Sticky rain dripping intermittently from the eaves, making the shabby back alley look eerily ominous. I was clutching the college application verification form I had just taken from the school archives, walking alone through the narrow alley that was the only way home. The dim street light, refracted by the rain and mist, cast mottled shadows and stretched my silhouette long. In my previous life, on the night before the results were announced, Sophia used her connections to find my answer sheet number, hired someone to break my right hand with an iron bar, and completely destroyed any chance I had of retaking the exam or repeating the year. This time, Sophia, penniless and on the verge of being wanted, had already become a cornered beast that had completely lost its mind. "Alexis," a hoarse voice, like that of a wrathful ghost, suddenly sounded from the dark corner of the alley. Thud, thud. Sophia dragged her heavy steps out of the shadows. She was draped in a tattered raincoat, clutching a rusted watermelon knife in her hand, her eyes bloodshot and deeply sunken, her whole body exuding a nauseating stench of decay and madness. "You ruined me. You destroyed my family. Matteo is in prison, and everyone in the class treats me like a murderer." Sophia shrieked hysterically, the tip of her knife trembling as it pointed at my face. "The exam results come out tomorrow night. right? You think you can be the top scorer? You think you can get into a top-tier university? I'll destroy you today. I'll turn you into the same filth as me. Facing the sharp weapon and the deranged Sophia, not a trace of panic appeared on my face, and I didn't even pause in my steps. Sophia, the one who pushed you to the brink isn't me, it's your own inflated greed and stupidity. My voice was calm as still water, even carrying a hint of condescending pity. Shut up. Die. That contemptuous look ignited Sophia's final burst of madness. She let out a desperate roar, raised the watermelon knife, and crazily slashed at my head. Just as the blade came whistling through the air, my eyes sharpened. In this year since my rebirth, I had not only meticulously planned my academics but had also never skipped a single day of physical training and self-defense practice. Facing Sophia's wild and clumsy swing, I sidestepped, the cold blade slicing past my sleeve without landing. Before Sophia could react, I struck like lightning, one hand precisely clamping down on her knife-wielding wrist, jerking it downward hard. Crack! Ah! Sophia let out a scream of agony, and under the searing pain in her wrist, the watermelon knife clattered loudly onto the concrete floor. I followed up with a clean, swift side kick, slamming it hard into her abdomen. Sophia flew back like a kite with its string cut, crashing heavily into a dirty gutter and splashing up mud. How? How can you? Sophia curled up in the filthy water, convulsing violently, her eyes filled with disbelief and terror. Did you think I was still the same Alexis you could push around? I walked slowly up to her, looking down at her from above, the sole of my shoe resting beside the fallen blade. Just then, the piercing wail of sirens suddenly rang out from the entrance of the alley. Red and blue police lights instantly illuminated the entire dark lane, and several officers holding shields and batons stormed in like divine soldiers descending from above, pinning Sophia to the ground. Freeze! Police! Flashbulbs and high-powered flashlights blinded Sophia, making it impossible for her to open her eyes. The officers deftly snapped cold handcuffs onto Sophia's injured wrist and sealed the watermelon knife in an evidence bag as the weapon. Sophia was stunned. She struggled and screamed. Why are you arresting me? She's the one who hit me. She is. The leading officer snorted coldly and raised the real-time monitoring device in his hand. Sophia, we received a report from Alexis about you half an hour ago, claiming you have repeatedly stalked and planned to injure someone with a knife. We have recorded the entire process of your knife attack just now. You are suspected of intent to murder with a knife. Come with us to the police station and explain yourself slowly. It turned out that even before leaving the door, I had tracked Sophia's movements through a surveillance app and had already filed a police report, turning this alley into a net to trap her. No, please. I don't want to go to jail. Alexis, I beg you to let me go. I was wrong. Sophia, pinned to the muddy ground, finally felt a death-like despair, kowtowing and begging frantically like a dog with its spine broken. I stood in the cold rain, watching coldly as she was pushed into the police car. On the day the grade check system opened, the sky was as clear as a washed sapphire. Sunlight streamed through the windows and lit up the main stage of the school auditorium. The flashes from the major media outlets lit the stage as if it were daytime. I wore neat school uniform and stood calmly at the center of the podium. On the screen beside me, the list of the province-wide college entrance exam results was being projected in real time. Name: Alexis. Language: 148 math, 150 foreign language, 150 comprehensive, 300 total, 748. The whole venue erupted in thunderous applause and cheers. The admission officers of top national universities were already waiting downstairs, vying to hand me full-ride scholarship offers. Reporters aimed their microphones at me, and the cameras were filled with admiration and praise. Alexis, facing your previous life. No. Facing the enormous upheavals and various disturbances your class faced, how did you manage to stay absolutely focused and eventually top the exam? I smiled and took the microphone, my gaze soft yet steadfast, because I have always believed that justice may be late, but destiny never fails those who are clear-eyed and hardworking. As for those who try to drag others into the abyss with despicable means, they will eventually be swallowed by the graves they themselves dug. Meanwhile, the iron gates of the suburban detention center slammed shut. In the pitch-black, narrow prison cell, An old TV was playing a live footage of me standing on the podium delivering my valedictory speech as the champion. In the screen, I shone brilliantly, like a dazzling star, on the path to the world's top university. And Sophia, sitting on a concrete bed, wore gray prison clothes and cold handcuffs. Due to attempted intentional injury, defamation, and connections to a family business dispute, she was sentenced to a long term. Seeing my graceful and icy smile on the television, Sophia trembled, her hands quivered, and suddenly she let out a scream of madness and despair. Clawing at her own hair, collapsing into outright mental breakdown on the cold floor of the cell. In the adjacent detention center, Mateo and the followers who had accompanied Sophia in wrongdoing looked at the notices of withdrawal and case reviews in their hands, cried with their heads in their hands, leaving tears of lifelong remorse. But none of this was mine anymore. After the awards ceremony, I stepped down from the podium, walked out of the auditorium. A cool breeze brushed my hair, and sunlight warmly fell on my face. The suffocating feeling of being trapped in an abandoned equipment room and the despair of being humiliated and trodden on in my previous life dissolved completely at this moment. I looked up and toward the infinitely vast sky. The enemies had paid a painful price and fallen into an abyss, and I, stepping on the corpses of my enemies, had won back my brilliant life that belonged to me. This is the end, and also my brand new start.